Good morning, everyone. My name is Kerline Nazaire, and the title of my research project is Electronic Cigarettes Use and Smoking Cessation Among Adolescents and Young Adults in the United States, a systematic review. Review of the proposal. Now I'm talking about the statement of the problem. Recent studies show that cigarette smoking is a global public health problem and a leading cause of death in the United States. And also, young adults who continue to smoke throughout their adulthood are at risk for nicotine addiction and stroke and heart disease. In order to cope with this problem, tobacco companies have introduced electronic cigarettes as less harmful alternative to smoking. And some people have used electronic cigarettes hoping that one day they'll be able to quit smoking. Now, the purpose of the systematic review was to examine whether or not electronic cigarettes are a safe and effective tool for smoking cessation, especially among adolescents and young adults in the United States. The review also studied youth perception toward the use of electronic cigarettes for smoking reduction and cessation. And lastly, another objective of the review was to investigate whether or not electronic cigarettes should be regulated in the United States. The systematic review tries to answer two major research questions. So the first one is, should electronic cigarettes be used as a safe and effective tool to smoking cessation among adolescents and young adults in the United States of America? The next question is, why should electronic cigarettes be regulated in the United States? And again, the method that we used was we conducted a systematic review to answer these research questions. Included studies. The search terms that were used to look for articles included electronic cigarette use, smoking cessation / reduction, and quitting. And these search terms were typed into the following websites and databases, including Academic Search Premier, the Cochrane Database, Google Scholar, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and the World Health Organization. And the included studies were based on certain types of inclusion and exclusion criteria. I have here 4 inclusion criteria and 4 exclusion criteria. So, studies that assessed youth perception toward electronic cigarette as a tool to smoking cessation, and studies that studied the association between electronic cigarettes and smoking cessation, investigated the effectiveness and safety of electronic cigarettes, and studies that assessed tobacco regulation in the United States were all included in this systematic review. So, for inclusion criteria, studies that involve smoking cessation only in women were excluded, and studies that were published in languages other than English were also excluded. So I also tried to exclude all studies that were published before 2012, so to keep information current and reliable, relevant to the topic. In electronics, and studies that investigated electronic cigarettes and health outcomes were also excluded. So the final number of included studies was 11. That includes 3 cross-sectional surveys, 1 longitudinal cohort study, 1 descriptive study, 2 randomized controlled trials, one experimental study, 2 systematic reviews, and 1 meta-analysis. Limitations of the systematic review involve biases within the included studies. So some of the included studies had very small sample sizes and have used different types of methods to select participants. Some of the studies did not even mention how they collected, how participants were collected, which really put them at risk for certain types of selection and information biases. Another limitation of the study is publication bias. Some of the studies that were originally cited in the proposal have been removed because I think the results did not answer the research questions, or the findings were not appropriate to the research topic. Another limitation is personal bias, which is sometimes referred to as the author's idea. So at some point within the research, I had mentioned how I think the theoretical framework would apply to the research topic, not necessarily how it would have been applied to the literature. Also, included studies were tested in terms of validity and reliability. So I had to make sure that the included studies had valid and reliable results that would have been helpful in terms of helping me answer my research questions. Recommendations. So it is recommended that more randomized controlled trials are conducted to confirm the correlation between electronic cigarette use and smoking cessation among young adults and adolescents. Also, it is recommended that more scientific research are done to test the safety of electronic cigarettes and the potential for nicotine addiction among adolescent smokers. It is recommended that policy makers come up with stronger regulations on the use of electronic cigarettes until science proves otherwise. Because although current evidence show that electronic cigarettes is helpful in terms of helping people quit smoking or initiate smoking reduction, but that does not mean that it is safe enough, and that is why more studies need to be conducted to show that electronic cigarettes are safe or not in terms of helping people quit smoking. And lastly, public health organizations need to implement new programs to help in reducing and ceasing youth smoking, not just use electronic cigarettes. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed the video.